what I was going to tell you is I found out something that I think it's pretty cool. So remember I told you that you can mix ivermectin and pyrantel together and you basically make heartworm medicine.
This episode is sponsored by the Beast of the East Dog Show. Come join us and see some of the best dogs in the country, meet world-renowned breeders. There's going to be working events, 2 ABKC sanctioned shows, and so much more. November 4th, 2023 at 3000 Courthouse Road, Chesterfield, Virginia. Don't miss the event of the year. We'll see you there. Ivermectin and pyrantel, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So the reason, so I asked a friend of mine who's a veterinarian. I said, "Hey, why don't you compound? You know what I mean, to make it cheaper for your clients." And same thing with NexGuard, same thing because they do a compound for Drontal now. You know what I mean? So it's like, why don't you do it for all the other ones? So the reason is because of copyright infringement. You're not allowed.
Interesting.
Yeah, somehow, some way they made it to where you can't put one and the other, shake it up, and sell it.
Huh. Wow.
So trademark infringement, stuff like that, you know what I mean? And it's crazy because if you just open the plums up and you want to make heartworm medicine, yes, I'm saying it slow because I don't want them to say that we use the word heart guard and shut us down, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you take a 32-ounce bottle of, what I do is I take a 32-ounce bottle of pyrantel and then so much ivermectin, pour it in there, shake it up really, really good, and you have heartworm preventative.
So now, for the people that don't know, like vets compounding medicine for them and stuff like that, like, can you just explain what that is as far as the compounding real quick? Like what?
Yeah. So you have medicine now that we use like toltazerol, however you say it, Baycox. Some people call it Baycox, and it is not technically approved in the U.S. or the FDA. I don't know how it works. You can buy it. You can buy it out of Canada. Your vet can buy it, but it has to be a compound. There's no pill form. There's no it has to be formulated. So that's the kind of stuff is what we're talking about. I also get, what else do I get? Metro, compounded for puppies because it's hard to break down pills to a puppy. I get it in an oral solution. So it's just, it's an easier way of, and sometimes for the most part, it's a cheaper way of making medicine. And if you have a really cool vet, they normally do it like enrofloxacin, Baytril. It comes in oral. You know what I mean? I don't know if anybody know that, liquid oral, and it's way cheaper.
Got you. Well, sometimes, don't you feel like depending on what the medication is it worth it to get it compounded? Like, for example, like if I'm gonna buy, I don't know, like,
We'll take Bravecto for an example.
Okay.
Bravecto is $60 a pill. Well, NexGuard Plus just came out last month or 2 months ago. It does it all. It does heartworm, it does roundworm, it does hookworms, it does flea and tick. And it's $30. If you talk to your vet, you're looking at anywhere between $30 and $50 a pill, depending on where you get it from. And that's a month. You know what I mean? Why can't we compound that?
Well,
then you can be $5 a pill.
That's something actually I never thought of doing, is like, is it as simple as just telling your vet, hey, I don't want the name brand stuff. Just get it compounded for me and send me the, like, and
Well, they can't. That's the problem. They can't compound anything like NexGuard. They can't compound HeartGuard. It is trademarked. They can't do it.
But what about, for example, stuff like you said, like Metro, for example, right? Like, let's just say I don't want to buy the, oh, so you're saying all that stuff is trademarked, that it can't be
compounded. Metro, you can get Metro compounded because the smallest you can get a Metro and pill that I've ever seen is 250s. So when you have a puppy who's 5 pounds, more than likely it only needs 100 milligrams. See what I'm saying? So how do you successfully break down a 250 into 100 milligrams for the average person? You know what I mean? because Metro is one of those medicines that has a toxicity level on it. So if you give too much of it, it's toxic.
I guess I was just trying to play devil's advocate in the sense, like, let's just say.
Oh, I was too, because I don't understand why they can't. I asked my vet, like, yo, why can't you compound NexGard? Why can't you compound? Well, I understand it because that's how they stay in business. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Because that's what I was thinking about. Is like, is there certain alternatives that maybe like there would be a reason as to why compounding isn't cheaper or is cheaper or whatever. I was just trying to play both.
It is definitely cheaper, but the problem is there's some legalities. They can't. There's certain things that the pharmacies cannot. They just physically can't do it because it's already, for an example, a HeartGard is a compound because it's not one medicine. It's two medicines mixed together that makes HeartGard. So that's a compound. When you mix, it becomes a compound. So anything like, let's say we have Dronto pills. That's a compound. Why? Because there's not just one medicine in it. There's at least 4 medicines in it. You mix it all together. That's a compound. Well, what they compound, it's easy to compound. I've seen flex tabs on doxycycline because doxycycline normally only comes in 100 pill tabs. But if you have a 200-pound dog,
you mean 100 milligram tabs?
100 milligrams, yeah. That's what
okay. Okay.
Most of them are 100 milligrams. I'm sorry.
I think so. Flex tabs, but it's all good.
Flex tabs are 300.
Okay.
And flex tabs can be broken into 3, or it can be broken into 2, or it can be one pill of 300 milligrams. That's what I've seen. So, say you have a 150-pound bull mastiff. Okay. You know how many pills he would have to take?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So, a 150-pound dog, it's 10 mg per kg or 5 mg per kg, depending on what's wrong. And 150 pounds, that's a lot of fucking pills. That's like 12 pills for morning and dinner.
So from what it sounds like, if you can make good friends with somebody who compounds, you're gonna be in a good.
There's compound places. There's one in Texas, in Paris, Texas. That's where I get most of my stuff from. There's a few of them all over the country. Roadrunner, I think that's in Arizona. They compound. They're a compound facility that people there used to be a medicine called snake oil. Snake oil, I think is what they used to call it. And there was a compound. You can compound your own stuff. That's what we're talking about, basically. If you take pyrantel and you take ivermectin, you mix it together, you compound it, heartworm medicine. But I legally can't make it into a pill because of
the copyright
infringements, and then they'll sue the shit out of us.
Got you. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And then even if, like, say a breeder tried to sell it, then the issue would also be like FDA, like everything is like FDA, right? It's because it's not FDA approved.
I mean, you're gonna have a lot more problems in the FDA. You're gonna have that company coming after you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even when I did the whole how easy it is to make HeartGard, now they weren't fucking pretty about it. They weren't so nice about me putting it out there like that. And the mistake that I made is I used the word HeartGard. When you use the word HeartGard, now you're giving them the opportunity to come after you. That's why I keep distinctly saying heartworm medicine.
Gotcha.
But you can make almost all your medicines at a cheaper rate if you make it yourself.
Yeah.
You just have to learn what the main ingredient is and stuff like that. So, and knowing how to break the stuff down. Some people just would rather pay you. I'm okay with that too. You know what I mean? Same thing with Totazerol and Paycox. It is not something you can get everywhere. And shit, if you want to buy it, we can sell it to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not an illegal substance.
Well, that's what I've learned, right? Is like, when it came to a lot of these, let's say, compounds, it was like all it came down to was just like, especially something having the tool of like the Plums book or something, looking at, okay, what's the name brand? Because everybody usually goes with the name brand. Like Clavamox, prime example. Everybody says, you got Clavamox? Meanwhile, that's just the name brand. But then when I looked up,
It's amoxicillin clavo.
Exactly. Yep. That's when I started to look up. Okay. I was like, so this is the actual drug. And then I was able to, that's not as good as an example. Like
Baytril. Baytril's a great example.
Oh, yeah.
Baytril is enrofloxacin, but Baytril, the name brand Baytril, is made by Bayer. Anything Bayer is expensive.
Yeah.
But Bayer also makes Heartguard. That's why it's so expensive.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? That's why they have such a large reach to be able to come after you. So instead of using Baytril, you can use enrofloxacin, which is the actual medicine.
Baytril is enrofloxacin.
It is. And then you can't be mad at them because what they did was they branded so well that you thought that Baytril was the medicine.
Yeah.
It's like Pampers. Like, is it a diaper or is it a pamper? What is it? You don't know because that brand is called diaper. I mean, Pampers for so long. Fuck, everybody just calls him a pamper. Hey, let me get a pamper for the boy. He peed on himself. But it's really a diaper.
Exactly. Yeah.
Same thing with Baytril. They've marketed it so well that you think Baytril is the medication when reality is enrofloxacin. And enrofloxacin comes in pill, it comes in injectable, and it can be compounded because why? It's not being mixed with anything. And you can get it in oral from your vet with beef flavoring, and it's a lot cheaper. It's a lot cheaper.
So now, why would, I guess it's more of a question, like, why would a vet want to prescribe you Baytril rather?
I'll tell you why. And we might get in trouble for what I'm about to tell you. So veterinarians, for the most part, they work off of, they get a salary, just say $100,000, right? But they also get paid a percentage of how much money they make the facility. So let's be honest. I know of quite a few vets, and I call vets on, if they would admit to it on camera, they would tell you is that I'd rather, I'll ask you, hey, cefodoxime, like we just said in the last one, cephalexin is way cheaper than cefodoxime, way cheaper. Or then I'll ask you, hey, do you have time to give 2 pills a day or 1 pill a day? 1 pill a day? Perfect. Cefodoxime is like 4 times the price of cephalexin. So just think about it. If I give you 20 pills of cephalexin, I'm out, $25? We'll just hypothetically. I make 10% of normally they make around 7 to 5% off of whatever they bring in. So if I make 5% off of $25, that ain't shit. Now, if I give you a script of cefodoxime that costs you $130, now I make more money. So a lot of times they use the name brands or they use the high-end medicine. Why? Because they make more money off of you. The veterinarian stuff that you're seeing. Now, a lot of times if you talk to what you used to call them as country vets, they own the veterinarian practice. So the less overhead that they have, we'll just say they have Drontal compounded and they buy it for what they buy it for. We'll just say they pay $2 a pill and they can sell it to you at a cheaper rate of $7 a pill versus $20 a pill. They still made money, but their overhead was cheaper. Now, if they bought Drontal directly from Bayer, they're going to pay $5 a pill. And then they have to charge you $35 a pill.
And that's another thing too, that like for the vet that one of my vets that I'm really cool with, it's like these companies also offer like incentives to them, like all these promos and all kinds of
lunches. I've been to a few lunches in my day.
Yeah, it's like lobbying and whatnot. Like they basically.
Well, here's what I will tell you: when I worked at the vet's office, you get a 1-year supply for 1 dog of Heartguard for free. Just here. Yeah, we make so much money here. You can have a whole year. Yeah, that's it. To them, it's like Tic Tacs. Yeah. But for us, I mean, it's something that we need, something we have to have. Yeah. Because heartworm is a serious epidemic, especially in the Northeast for like my house and your house. Because not ticks, but mosquitoes are a motherfucker. You know what I mean? So it is. They know it's something that we need, and they've cornered the market. And that's, you supply a need, and then you supply the demand. Boom, made it. They got it made in heaven. You know what I mean?
Yep, exactly.
So, but we can make it at home, but we can't talk about it between each other because we'll get in trouble. I can tell you how to make it. Kind of gave you most of the directions.
Yeah.
If you don't make it at home, it's on you. You can't do a little bit of mathematics. Don't be mad at me. Yeah. Or one or the other. You know what I mean?
And there's plenty of videos already on YouTube talking about like how to, use like ivermectin and stuff like that. And
well, you can look in the plums. If you have a plums right there, you look up Pyrantel. Look it up right now. If you go to the very back page of Pyrantel, it will tell you if you mix ivermectin at this rate, this is Heartguard. If you mix ivermectin and this as well, you have Heartguard Plus. if you mix this, this, and this, you just made Drontal. It tells you in the book on how to do it.
Exactly, 100%. I was looking for my book, but I don't think I have it in here.
Mine's down.
But yeah, I mean, simple stuff like that, which is huge. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, like, yet again, it just goes back to that, like being able to go into that book, and I've seen certain things, and I even send you stuff like, hey, yo, what's this? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's yeah, people.
That's where it goes back to steel sharpens steel, because there's some things that you sent me I've never even heard of, and I'm blessed enough to have some really good friends that are veterinarians, and you send it to me, I ain't never heard of it. I send it right over. Oh yeah, that's what's in NextGuard Plus now. Oh shit, really? All right, let's see if we can make NextGuard Plus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But obviously, it's something that me and you can use, but we can't sell. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because why? Because of infringement. You know what I mean?
Yep. Exactly. So,
People.
But
yeah, I mean, if you learn how to read the Plums book, it tells you everything you need to know. That's why I recommend it to so many people. That's why I tell people to buy it. That's why I tell people, if you just look into it, you can go on Google right now and say, my dog has an upper respiratory infection, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. You look it up. It tells you Z-Pack. I don't know how to say the shit. I don't know how to say the word. How do you say for
azithromycin?
Azithromycin. It will tell you Clavamox. It will tell you SMZs. It will tell you this. It will tell you that. All right, well, go look each one of them up. It ain't, bro, me and you ain't doing anything extravagant. We're learning to use our God-given brain. The only difference is that we legitimately want to try to find a way where when you have 10 dogs like you do, or 20 or 30 dogs like I do, ivermectin is what, $30, $40 a bottle, $30 for $40 for some Pyrantel, mix it together. I have enough to do 10,000-pound animals for HeartGuard, where 6 pills of HeartGuard cost me $60.
Yeah.
So that's all we're doing. We're just learning the methods.
That, and then the other thing too that, like, I haven't really talked about is something so simple as too, like, yes, I highly suggest getting the Plums book, but also, I mean, hey, you can get it on your phone. You know, I got the Plums book on my phone. I mean, I think you said you have a different one, right? Oh, yes, the app. Yep.
There's a Plums app and there's a Merrick app.
Yeah, and like for me with the Plums book, the Plums app, right? I just signed up. You can literally
like $5 a month.
Yeah, something like that, and you could literally type in, like, I typed in, I don't know,
upper respiratory.
Yeah, upper respiratory, diarrhea, whatever. It'll throw you, drugs with those.
What you need to look up.
Yeah, exactly. Now, as to how I would go about it, I mean, I don't know how that algorithm works, because there were some things that I searched that I was like, this is definitely not the first thing that I would use or recommend, but it can put you in the right direction, I think.
I mean, I tell people that all the time, man. When I first started breeding dogs, I was an E4 in the Army. Was I in the Marines or the Army? I don't remember. Anyway, I was in the service. I didn't make a lot of money. And anybody who's ever been in the service, an E4, and I think I had 2 kids at the time, maybe 1, I don't remember. Anyway, I didn't have a lot of money. So every time I went to the vet, I used to have a journal. Green snot means this, clear snot means that, white snot means this. I would write it all down, and this is the medicine they would give me. This is the medicine that you give me. And then I would write it all down, so the next time I ever seen it, I could go back to my little journal, look it up. All right, I got green snot. Green snot means infection. Infection means I need to give an antibiotic. Well, it was that easy. You know what I mean? Yeah. Kennel cough. You hear kennel cough for the first time, you're like freaking the fuck out. You know what I mean? But then the next time you hear it, like, oh, it's just kennel cough, it'd be all right. But then you go to the vet and you're like, oh, doxycycline. When for the first 10 years of my breeding career, doxycycline would have been the choice. Now I would tell people SMZs, because why? SMZs, by the 3rd day, it's out, gone. Doxycycline is twice a day for 10 days minimum before you see any results. Where SMZs, by the 3rd day, they're stopped hacking, they're walking around, they're not lethargic anymore.
So I know SMZ through because I've seen that for for fish as sulfamethoxazole and trimethoprim.
Yeah,
But
that's what
I know that I think that and trimethoprim is something different, right? It's not the same as SMC,
SMC.
or
That's
it's
all
the
the
same thing.
same thing.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
got
It
you,
comes in 400 or 800. Yeah.
got you.
You use it for, in the book, it says you can use it for bronchial or UTIs. It says you can use it for both. I love this stuff, man. You got a UTI. I got a dog right outside now with a UTI. She's on her third, well, she used to. She on her third day. She stopped urinating every 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Where if normally they would tell you, go to the vet, they would tell you, hey, do Clavamox. And if
Yeah.
it's bad enough, they'll tell you do Clavamox with Baytril. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, shit, I ain't never seen, very rare do you see it where SMZ can't knock that shit out. The only thing I would tell people, SMZ is a sulfur-based product, so be mindful if you're allergic to sulfur. A lot of people are allergic to sulfur.
Okay.
So just be mindful that it is a sulfur product. So don't go swelling up on us like a,
And the cool thing too is, like, especially when you talk about the medicines, is like what I also enjoy is just also the, like, using two synergistically, using two that give you an even better effect or a better result. I mean, prime example is kind of like what you just said. And the book talks about it, because remember, I had sent you, I was like, oh, look, you mix, like for people that are sedating dogs, you mix, I think it was like ketamine and something else, and you get puppy magic. That's what they call,
They have kitty magic. It's all the same thing. It's
yeah.
xylazine, ketamine, and ace mix, I think it is.
Yeah, so like they all
Maybe I shouldn't have said that out loud.
Well, it says it in the book, that's what they use in the book.
One part of each. That's what it says.
Yeah. So, like I was saying though, just seeing them work synergistically, like prime example is I had a really bad infection with one of the dogs. I used Clavamox with Baytril, and I mean it rocked. You know what I'm saying? It worked really good.
Well, people, I mean, we can go into once we get into this and we get people's attention and we get people understanding, we can get people to understand the difference between gram negative and gram positive. That is the next, like, we're talking like, calculus type shit. Because it's a huge difference. You got to know if your antibiotic is gram negative or gram positive, because then you get to know what you're fighting. Not everything, you can't do two things. It just doesn't work sometimes. So you got to understand what you have. But here's the other thing I was going to mention. This is why sometimes that you can learn from anybody. Don't ever take it in that you can't learn. Oh man, these guys think they know everything. No, I don't know everything. One, and two, I have learned some very odd things in my breeding career from people that I would never have thought. They've been breeding dogs for a week and they know it. Why? Because his wife is a nurse practitioner or something, you know what I mean? And she's like, hey, that doesn't make any sense. Why don't you do that? And you're like, I never thought of it. You know what I mean? So a lot of times, the thing is with certain communities, we shun each other. Oh, you breed exotics. Oh, you breed English bulldogs. Oh, you breed bullies. Oh, you breed bull mastiffs or oldies. We shun each other, but the reality is we can learn from each other.
100%.
Experiences help us and mold us to where this podcast, for an example, a lot of people didn't know that there was a shot that we have talked about in the past, that if you have a one testicle, that you can give them gonadorelin and it could possibly descend the second testicle.
Yeah.
Where in the past, one testicle, pet homed.
Yeah, I've been there. I've had it happen to me. I had that happen. I had a dog I had to pet home because of that. I'm gonna be honest. You know what I'm saying? Like, and knowing that now, I mean, hey, I would have used it back then, but
it doesn't always work, but it is an option.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been in a veterinarian clinic where the guy walks in and the dog has a closed pyometry and he's like, spay. And it's like, hey, you do know that there is another option. You have an option. If you have a closed pyometry, you have a medical option. You know what I mean? And then boom. And that's something that I learned from someone that I would have never thought in a million years that I ever would have learned it. So then I take it to a veterinarian. He's like, technically, yeah, it could work possibly. You know what I mean? So don't ever count anybody's information like it's stupid. That's what I'm trying to imply.
Yeah, I agree 1000%. And same thing, like, and I feel like sometimes I learn even by people's questions, because they'll ask a question that made me not think.
Well, not only that, they might ask you a question that you genuinely don't know the answer to. So you're like, that is a really valid question. Let me try to get to the answer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And
we'll say valbazin. It's a worm medicine that people use. Textbook says that it normally, or it can, I apologize, that it can sterilize your animal for 45 days. That's what the textbook, if you look up in plums, it will tell you that it could sterilize your animal for 45 days. Now, you talk to a farmer, oh, I use it all the time. And I use it on my nuts. I use it on my dogs. I ain't never had them shits always having babies. You know what I mean? And you're over here like, damn, I'm trying not to use it because I want the chick to have get pregnant, or the male to be able to produce. But Farmer Joe, he uses it on old Roscoe, and he has 17,000 puppies.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? We can learn from each other, man. And so I use Valbazin. I mean, I use it after moms have puppies, but that's just me because I was always taught that it can sterilize a dog for 45 days.
Got you. That's interesting. No, I mean, I haven't really, I haven't used it, but no, that definitely sounds interesting though. And I mean,
but I'm just showing you it's an example of how we can learn from each other. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, 100%. I think 100%. That's extremely valid. And I
But
think, uh-huh.
my fault. I was going to say the one thing that we've learned from each other, or we've talked about just recently, what we talked about, it was splitting semen.
Yeah,
I'm not a big fan of it. I believe
I'll do it.
if someone pays a stud fee, that is basically their day. But
Yeah,
I'm an old fuck compared to someone like you who's got all that scientific stuff behind you, where I might just go outside and let them put them in the pen together and let them do their nasty. You know what I mean? Done. Where my way, you can only collect the dog, or you can only breed the dog one time. Where your way, you can collect the dog, and he gives you, like you said, he gives you 1 billion. You can split it between 500 million and 500 million. And you've convinced me that that is a proper way of doing it, because when you're using frozen semen, you only get 100 million
yeah.
per. That is the collection. That's the number they're shooting for. I've had a shit ton of dogs collect it, and now you can make them super strength or something like that, but the margin is 100 million.
Yep, exactly. So that's where, yet again, yeah, going into that conversation of like, well, if are you paying for the day for the dog, or are you paying for a good, just good quality semen that's an acceptable amount and number? So yeah, no, definitely. I mean, like I said, once I learned all that, man, I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't have a problem. Not that I do it all the time, because I don't. If you do that all the time, I feel like maybe that should be transparent. That there's like you as a stud owner.
I think you should be transparent regardless.
Yeah. Like I feel
personally believe it should be transparent, because you're telling me that I paid you. We'll just, especially if you're paying anything, we'll just say 2,500 or more.
Yeah,
That's a substantial amount of money.
Yeah,
for most people, especially in today's era, today's times. So if I'm paying you $2,500 stud fee, I should be able to get the dog pregnant. Now, if you're sending me a half-ass sample, this is how I think, where you think the more scientific way, or the more realistic way for modern technology. If I paid you this much money, that's my, for lack of a better, that's my semen. You know what I mean? I shouldn't have to share with someone else.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. I mean, yet again, though, I mean, whether it's 200 million or a billion. I mean, if the dog, like, and yet again, like I said, like if the person's, they're just paying for good quality semen that will get their female pregnant. So it shouldn't matter, theoretically, it shouldn't matter if it got cut in half, or if the dog gave you a billion that you cut it in 4 ways. I mean, and I've seen that actually happen, where they split it. It was like 3 or 4 different ways, and the female still got pregnant. But it's just like, as long as the person is getting what's considered, yet again, in today's standard, I think the U.S. I think it's like 200 million is considered for a live breeding, sufficient, chilled breeding sufficient, and I think in the UK it's like 300 million. But as long as you're getting that baseline, with 3/4 of it being motile and 3/4 of it looking morphologically normal, I mean, at that point, I guess that's like, and I think it also comes down to your like education level, because if the person, most average people won't understand, like you're cutting that semen in half and they think, oh, I'm only getting half a breeding. No, I mean, if it was a billion, you're getting essentially what, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. You're getting 5 breedings.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I do. I get it. It is, I guess I'm the old guy, you know what I mean? I'm the old guy in the group, so I'm okay with saying, all right, this is the way I believe in it. That's how I believe, and that's what I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you believe your way because you're more technology driven, and I can respect your view. That's what I'll tell you. And just because I don't necessarily may agree with it, but I can respect it because I understand where you're coming from. Because again, I've used frozen semen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the other thing I'll say too is like you could also flip that around and say, well, and this is why I'm such a huge advocate for use a real extender, not this horse stuff. Is like, what if we would take that same methodology and be like, all right, let's just say and I've had to do this actually with Garden State June, is all right, we did the breeding today, right? I don't want to have to drive out here again. So how about and he's not able to ship it to me. So how about we take that collection, half of it will go into her today, the other half will throw in a box, I'll throw it in my car, take it home with me, and the next day or the following day, I can use that other half of the collection and increase my chances. Yeah.
Because I mean, the theory of what you're saying is 100% correct. Because when I collect the dog, I split it in half in 2 vials, and then boom, I ship it. Like I'm actually going to have semen shipped today from one of my dogs.
Okay.
And that's exactly what he's going to do. He's going to ship me 2 vials, one that I can use tomorrow, one that I can use Sunday. It is the same concept, if that's what they're doing. But for the most part, when I worked at the vet's office, I'm getting 4 cc's, and that is it.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, like, and to me, this is a little bit of a stretch. There's a breeder, I won't name the names, but they sent semen here. And I mean, he literally sends you 100 million. Like, I can't say on the dot, but like, it's damn near 100 million every single time, which he says it's enough for a breeding, but he doesn't want people. I don't know if it's because he doesn't want people to like split it or take half of it and like freeze it, or I don't know what it is, or maybe just the dog is producing low, a low amount, but this dog is super busy. But I just found it so weird every time, because we did 2 breedings, not me but a friend of mine, they had the semen shipped, and each time it was that low, and I'm like, is this guy cut it? Either like it could be he's either cutting it or he only wants you to like.
That's what I'm talking about in regards to like that. That's just being greedy.
Yeah, that to me, you're. I'll bleep this out, but you're a dick, in my opinion. If you're doing that, give the whole collection. Like,
well, even if you're not giving the whole collection, I mean, if you're literally giving, now I understand what people are going to say. In their argument would be, well, you're not going to have 100 million puppies. Okay, I get what you're saying. I understand that, but you also understand that half of the shit's going to die. Your motility is not the greatest. Your morphology is not the greatest. How many of them got fucked up tails? How many of them got 2 heads and 2 tails? You know what I mean? Like out of 100 million, out of them, we'll just say 100,000.
Yeah.
We'll say 50,000 of them are amazing. Out of that 50,000, how many of them are going to swim far enough to need to go there? I mean, it's just too much. I think that cutting down to exactly 100,000 is just, that's just wrong.
Yeah. Like I said, he cut it down every time to like.
Especially if they're paying huge stud fees, because I think I know who you're talking about. They're paying huge stud fees.
The guy,
and you get 100 million.
He had to have paid at least, I think, like anywhere between 3,500 to $5,000.
Yeah. And you paid five. What'd you say? You paid $5,000 for 100,000. I mean, come on, man.
I told the dude, I was like, you call him and you tell him how much his sperm count is. And then when we told him, he was kind of like, well, it's 100 million, so it's enough to do a breeding. And I'm like, on technicality, yes, but like, why would you do that? Like, I don't know, man. So
see, that's where my argument is. That's, to me, is greedy. Now, if you tell the person like, hey, I've split this 4 ways, I would tell you, man, just give my money back.
Yeah.
I don't, you know what I mean? And then your criteria of what I have to do to use the semen, I'm cool, man. I feel like, but I think the stud owner, I think that the owner who's paying the stud fee should know all that up front.
100%. Like, I feel that's like another thing, right? Unless you're like a super kind of lenient breeder when it comes to when issues pop up and stuff like that as a stud owner, like I feel like if you're gonna be like, let's put it this way, just I see it happen all the time because I get so many breeders who come to me. Not enough breeders are looking at what's Like if something goes wrong, how much semen am I expected to get? So on and so forth. Like I feel like the semen side of breeding is so slept on in comparison to like progesterone testing and all that other stuff. For example, like if you don't even, I had a guy who paid $7,000 for a stud feed, and when we looked at the semen, like if he didn't check it, because he wasn't going to, if I took the initiative to say, let me take a look at this real quick. Like if we didn't check, like the semen was terrible. It was bad. And if we didn't check, and they would have sent him a second box, right, a second breeding, because I know that breeding would have taken if they would have sent the second one, he would have been out of luck. It was 2 breedings and then you're done. Like so, 2 breedings. If it don't take, that's it. And like, I feel like not enough breeders are looking at like what's expected from the stud owner, and then they get screwed when it comes time to do their breeding.
Yeah, I don't. That doesn't sit well for me. I mean, I look at it differently than most people. That's a puddle on the floor if I don't put it in a bag.
I agree 100%. The semen,
you know, the thing is semen's free, technically.
Yeah, it'll cost me nothing.
Yeah, so you know, for me, I think there should be. So if you're talking to anybody in the UK, if you sell a defective dog, they have every right to get all their money back. I mean, they pay taxes on their breedable dogs, even. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So here, if we sell a completely trash dog, nobody cares. Okay. But if we have one puppy, I believe stuff like that should be a standard where across the board, like an actual legal standard where, you know, one puppy recoups all your costs, one puppy is your keeper, and the third puppy is your profit. Yeah. So, you know, we should pay where like mandatory, if you're paying a stud for stud service legally, there should be a legal limit to where 1 puppy, 2 puppies, or 3 puppies should be a legal limit. Not, well, I've had people say, was the semen good? Yeah, I did my job. Click.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, bro, you understand that ain't nothing but a wet spot on the pillow if you don't put it in a bag.
Yep. Yep.
Like, I don't get it, bro. Like, you that thirsty? Like, I mean, I'm different, you know what I'm saying? So now my only concern is when people mix breeds, I can't prove or deny anything. So I'm not going to keep sending you semen. Oh, it didn't take. Oh, it didn't take. Oh, it didn't take. Yeah. So like when you do frozen semen, when you're using frozen semen, the dog has to be microchipped. The dog has to be microchipped because they connect the frozen semen numbers to the microchip. So if she doesn't take, they know that she didn't take.
Yeah.
That's how they do it when I had semen shipped from overseas. The dog had to be tagged.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, I'm freezing here myself now, but
well, that's actually a way of doing it though. You can, you know, when you're using the frozen semen, make sure the dog is tagged. So if anything, you can check legally if this dog with this tag has ever had puppies in the last 6 months.
Yeah, that's true. That's interesting. No, that's good to know. I mean, for everyone watching to know. But yeah, like I said, bro, I think that's a huge thing that's not looked at enough is the semen side and the part that the stud owners play. And like just because I feel like just because someone is I guess what you would call a big name breeder because they have a really big popular stud right now, that doesn't mean that they understand real dog breeding. And that's like my biggest thing is like when you speak to a few of them and it's just like the knowledge isn't quite where you would expect it to be. So you can't expect them to do everything right just because they got the big name. You know, you got to do your own homework. You got to do your own research. You got to do your own education, you know?
I agree totally, man, because if you get, if I got 100,000 count, I would be shitty.
Yeah,
I would be shitty. Especially if I paid you $7,000 and you legitimately sent me 100,000, because that's the minimum, 100,000. I would be shitty.
We only got a couple seconds left, but like, yeah, exactly. Like, I agree 100%. Like, and I had that happen. And the stud owner, when I confronted the stud owner about it, he's like, oh, I didn't know. He blamed it on his repro man. His repro man blamed it on the stud. The stud's being overworked, all that stuff. You gotta, it's like getting a used car. You gotta do your due diligence. So, anyway, guys, we're at the end of this episode. So until next time, we'll see you guys on the next episode. Hi, guys.